while Alex is getting set up, this next talk is about virtual productions. Now, we've been seeing and hearing a lot about virtual productions. Alex here is the CEO of Simplates. He does some amazing things. He's going to be talking about how he's been using the render network and virtual productions. Whenever you're ready, Alex.
All right, cool. So, great. That's my. I guess I need to stand closer to this so I can see what's coming up next. I'm Alex Pearce. I have a company called Simplates. And before I start, how many people here use Octane render engine in some capacity or another? Okay, great. And how many people here use? Yep. How many people use the render network in some capacity or other? Okay, cool. How many of you guys know anything about virtual production? A little bit, a lot? Okay, great, cool. It just helps me to sort of, yeah, me too. I mean, it's those, I saw Nathan back there. What's up, dude? So my talk here is driving virtual production forward, rendered plates versus AI in real time on the LED stage. So virtual production is obviously a very wide term, and there's actually lots and lots of things that what it is and what it's not. And I'm not going to go into all of it. But Gen AI specifically has a place in virtual production. I think it's going to have even more of a place in the future as pipelines get better and better. But there's a lot of different and same with Unreal Engine and real-time workflows. A lot of people, when they think of virtual production, they think of Unreal Engine, they think of real-time. But even before AI, a lot of it, you'd be surprised to know how much of it was actually just rendered out plates, whether there was real cameras or they made the scene in Unreal or some other program and then decided, oh, actually we have to render this out for whatever reason. I put this in here just so I could, before I forget, because I'm terrible about doing it. You can connect with me if you look up at Alex Pearce 3D, whether it's YouTube or Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever, you'll pretty much find me. I'm probably most active in LinkedIn, and I do like some more like in detailed like tutorial type stuff on my LinkedIn. I used to be a lot bigger on YouTube, and not bigger, but just in terms of like more active on YouTube. I've sort of switched over more towards that. I am also now teaching virtual production at the UCLA film school for grad level cinematography students. But yeah, please connect with me on whatever platforms you have. So I'm a virtual production supervisor. This is at Fuse. This was for a feature film that's coming out this year called Lear Rex, which is a retelling of King Lear. Al Pacino, Jessica Chastain, Peter Dinklage. So I was a supervisor for that job. Virtual production supervisor is also one of those jobs that like really depends on, it can be so many different things. If you're at a major studio, you're probably just communicating between the filmmakers and the tech team, and that's really what you're doing, and that's your job. If you're at a small studio, you might be doing literally everything. And if you get a chance, go check out the LED wall that's in the break area over there. Kellen, blanking on his last name, he's here. Kellen Malloy is the director of virtual production for Otoy, and he is one of those guys. He's one of the smartest guys you'll ever meet. He knows camera, he knows setting up LED walls, he knows software, he knows hardware. So anyway, virtual production supervisor can mean a lot of things, and I have also been at sort of the top and the bottom of that whole ladder, and can kind of do all of the above. I was the virtual production supervisor for Linkin Park's last music video, Up From the Bottom, which was a lot of fun for me. I also, like growing up, they were like one of my favorite bands, so I went into skateboarding and all that. I was also accidentally the lighting designer for it, so the software I use is great at like pixel mapping lights, and so I set it all up for the lighting designer, and then he was sick that day or something, so I ended up doing all of the lighting as well. But it was a lot of fun to work on. Most of my work, though, really has focused on car process. So even years ago when I first got started, I kind of realized that most of virtual production really was car process. And for the foreseeable future, I think that's going to be the case. And there's a lot of obvious reasons why. If you think about reflections coming on the windshield. So if you're doing green screen, this is obviously way better for that when you have cars, because now you have reflections, refractions, you have to key, all that sort of stuff. So if you can get rid of all that, great. And then just in general, the problem it solves, it's very expensive, very dangerous, and it's a problem to go shoot real plates or do a process trailer where you put the car on a trailer, you drag the actors through the city and you record it. Nobody likes doing it. So it makes sense. Car process is kind of a big part of virtual production. And I saw a lot of the problems in car process in general. And so I sort of formed a company around all of that several years ago. Several years ago, I started making products and started working towards this. 2 years ago, we started a company, and that's what my company does. So my company is called Simplates, and we essentially make fully CG pre-rendered 360 12K plates for virtual production. That's sort of what we do. We can do any resolution, but that's sort of where our base library is. We have a whole library of content that's growing all the time, and we do a lot of custom work. So we solve some of the biggest difficult problems in car process, and I'm not going to go too far into the weeds of what that is, but when you're doing car process, the height makes a huge difference. If you're supposed to be an SUV height and the plates were filmed really low, it's going to look weird. And the more often one is you're supposed to be in a sports car, but they shot plates with the cameras mounted on top of a car, and now even though you're in a sports car, the plates you're like looking down on SUVs, and it just gets really wrong. So there's things like that. Speed is obviously a big challenge, and I'll play some of our reel here. So this is just on our website. You can see our reel. So all of the backgrounds is content that we have created. Some of these I also supervised or operated. This one's from a train sequence. We've also done. We can do trains, and we can do flying plates and Skype and water plates as well. This is from a show called The Hunting Party. We'll talk more about that. It's a really good use case for us. But yeah, so basically, anytime you're watching TV and there's two people talking, it's almost always done in virtual production, and we focus on creating the content that goes behind that. It's probably already obvious, but I use Octane Render Engine and I use the Render Network heavily, and sort of we're going to get a little bit into that as well. But yeah, this is sort of what we do. This is what it kind of looks like at an LED stage. This is called Lumo Stage in Vancouver. So this is more of like a behind the scenes look. So you have, there's all sorts of different shapes and sizes, but you'll usually have some sort of LED main wall, then you'll have a wild wall to get reflections, and a ceiling. Sometimes, like Nant has this big, you can fully circle, like full 360 around the car. Some have ceilings, some don't. Ceilings can be really important for reflections, for in the windshield and such. But this is sort of what it looks like when you're on set. So why Blender and Octane? So we specifically use Blender and Octane, and we have my co-founder. So it's me and one other guys. This is the core team. My co-founder is a Blender guru. He's been using Blender for like 20 years, literally. He's like the oldest. I mean, I don't know anyone who's been using it longer. He understands Houdini. He knows how to use Houdini. Houdini's an amazing program. I decided sort of before getting into all this that it had to be procedural. The thing that we built had to be procedural. It didn't necessarily matter to me if it was going to be Blender or Houdini. But we still feel that Blender is the right choice. And one of the reasons is all the things that we can do in Blender, and then how well it ties into Octane standalone. And I know Andre, if he's still here, he does a lot with Houdini. Yeah, there you are. So a lot with Houdini to Octane. And we have, I think, similar pipelines. Like we do the work in Blender, we move to Octane standalone, which is an incredibly powerful piece of software, especially when you deal with scenes like we do, which are massive. I mean, if you think about building a full city, you know, you have thousands of buildings, and then you have thousands of animated cars, thousands of people walking on the streets. There's millions of trees in the far background and mountains behind that. These scenes are incredibly massive. And so to do it procedurally means that we can build this whole city after 2 years of developing the toolkit. We can build this city that I was talked about in 30 minutes. The actual scene can be done in 30 minutes. We still have to render it out and all that, but this would take any VFX company. You could hire Pixamondo, rest in peace, or Eyeline or somebody to build out this scene and render this 12K thing, but it's going to take them months to get to where we can get in 30 minutes. Really in 5 minutes, but that's another thing. And then the photorealistic. So I don't know which slides I have in here specifically, but Octane, of course, is a very photorealistic render engine. Kind of got popular when Midjourney came out. To make things more photorealistic, you would say rendered in Octane. And so a lot of people I know about Octane because of that, which I think is really funny. But it's true. I did test a bunch of different render engines. What we do specifically is full 360, and to get full 360 motion blur correct, and to render at 12K, or we've rendered up to 24K and not have it crash, is pretty insane. And again, these are with massive scenes. Sometimes, like our desert scenes, sometimes also like we have like high poly rocks that go forever. The scenes are just insane. The fact that it doesn't crash is pretty wild. Um, so these are just some of like the node groups that we have created. So if you were to go into any one of these, you would have this whole procedural workflow to do it. And now we'll see some of it later. This is my desktop like just splash screen. But all of these things have a different like so looping displacement or the pavers. Like there's a procedural thing for everything. So uh, let's see if this is I think we got a video in here somewhere. So just to for example, so this scene. We just sort of break down the scene and what we can do in our tool set. So this is like pretty old, but this is basically like we have our own add-on in Blender, and so we can just choose like how many lanes do we want, how wide do we want the lanes to be, is this in the UK, is this in the US, how far do we want the bank to be in between. Let's add grass, let's add trees, whatever you want to do, traffic. So we have different traffic sets if it's the 90s or if it's modern day or if it's 70s. What's the density of that traffic? The seed, we can change, of course, the speed of all that sort of stuff. So our speed as well, everything we do is loopable. So if we say it's 100 miles an hour, it'll make the scene really long, and the last frame will be the frame right before the first frame. So it'll loop forever, which is a big problem in virtual production, is having too short of clips. But yeah, you can see all our the trees and the bushes and all that sort of stuff. And this is something that Octane specifically their scatter system for trees and foliage just is second to none. We can scatter millions of high poly trees and just not even worry about it. That was a Hyundai commercial. So that plate we built for a Hyundai commercial. And we did it, and it is 100% procedural. This is another look at some of our tool sets. So, we have full control over like how wide do we want the sidewalks to be, or how long do we want the turn lane to be. All these sorts of things. Everything is procedural, and I think I'm going to skip through. I'm going to skip some of these videos here. Anytime we run into a problem, though, instead of just creating it, so like in that case, we had when one of the plates we were doing like Mexico City, it was like, oh, we need telephone wires, and we didn't have anything for telephone wires. Instead of just dropping telephone wires, we just built a tool set so that we can procedurally do whatever we want with that in the future. So maybe it would have taken us 2 hours to like put the things in. Instead, we took a week to build like, okay, but now we can make it droopy, and now we can add more, and now they can cross over, and now they can be different styles. And then, yeah, obviously, same with people. This slide I just put in here because this is a piece of software that we built just for our local rendering. So we do a lot of local rendering. We do a lot of render network. But we have very complex. Again, we're rendering at 12K resolution. We have to render at really, really high samples. We don't do up-resing at the end. We can, but the quality is so much better if we render at resolution. And the fidelity you need at an LED stage has to be perfect. It can't be, and so when you upscale and you denoise, some of those things are okay, but it's much better to render at resolution. So we've built sort of our own standalone application to spread the load between different render networks that we have, local render networks we have, and not render the same frames or whatever. And then, of course, we do a lot with the render network. And the render network, there's a few things that I love about the render network. When we first were getting started, for sure, we would not exist as a company today if we didn't have the render network, because we didn't have any infrastructure. And so when we would have a job, we had to rely on the render network because, again, we have to, our render farms, our local render farms, we have 16 A6000s, and we still have to rely on the render network. That's like to give you an idea of the compute power we have to have for rendering 12K at full resolution, multiple render passes, and everything else. Now we can sort of get away with a lot of things here and there. But in the beginning, there was no way we were going to buy 16 A6000s and build a whole infrastructure. And so I will always be grateful for that. But now, even still, especially with our custom work, which is we're getting more and more custom work that we're doing. it still would be impossible for us to render, even with 1686,000s, to render the scenes we need and in the deadlines that we have. And so we will talk a little bit about one of those shows here. I do want to keep an eye on the time. I'm going to cut through, let's see, let me go this way. So I will show this one. So this is another look at the procedural tool set, just because I know this crowd probably would appreciate the procedural stuff. So this is looking at some of our procedural tool sets. We have lots of different buildings. This is like a full city, so you can kind of get the sense of the scale of like what one of our cities might look like. There's just a ton of buildings and all of these cars. Everything is animated. There's people walking on the streets. Everything is so it's quite a massive undertaking that we've made. And then this is some of the results of some of our plates. And these actually, some of these you can actually see at the LED wall. So Kellen has some of these plates. If you want to see it on the LED wall in the other room, you can ask him about it. Yeah. So now we'll talk about the hunting party. So the hunting party, I'm going to sort of skip through some of this because I know I'm conscious of time. So the hunting party is a show on NBC, and the premise is they're hunting serial killers all across the states. And in season 1, they had a big problem of getting plates that were correct. And so for season 2, they found out about us, and we've done a lot of work specifically for them. See there. This is another one. So this one, we need to be SUV height. We need to go 100, I think it was like 110 miles an hour in a small city somewhere in the middle. I forget which city it was supposed to be, but like somewhere in the middle of America. And it was like, this plate it's impossible to shoot this plate. Like you would have to spend a lot of money to actually get this, because those would all need to be stunt drivers. And you would have to shut down the streets, and you would have to do a lot of, I mean, it would be insane for them to try to actually get this plate. And to try to get it within like a week, forget it. Like, it's not going to happen. And then this is what it sort of looks like through camera. So this is them sort of flying through, chasing whatever serial killer it was. I think for this episode it was Kelsey Grammer, which was kind of fun. But yeah. So, and then the other thing that you would not understand at all unless you've been in this industry is that they need to be fully stable. So you would think, oh, you actually want all this crazy motion baked into the plate, but that's what gives you the bad rear projection that looks like really old movies, where the background's moving independently of the foreground. So they could have, and potentially, in my opinion, should have moved the car more and moved the physical camera more on set when they were shooting it, but the plates need to be fully stabilized. And again, it's the faster you go, the harder it is to do that. So doing it in CG, no problem. And then this was another one of those plates. I think Kellen also has this plate out in the lobby. All right, so starting my talk a few minutes before I stop it. So Gen AI, I'm going to sort of get through here. So there's a lot of obvious pros and cons, right? So we use AI for a lot of things in my company. On the Gen AI side, we do it more for establishing shots. So we have done a few like, oh, here you're using our plates, but you need to like be like you want to get like a drone shot of the car, driving before. We can use Gen AI for that. We can't use it for driving plates yet. You can with one caveat. If you're doing like a car commercial and you know you're going to be cutting every 2 seconds, you can get away with it for sure. Not even get away with it. You can get really good results. It's a bunch of hacks. You got to render it, then up-res it, denoise it, do all these things. You can work it. But if you think about 2 actors in a car doing a dialogue scene, you really can't do that with AI right now. It would be harder and more expensive to do it with AI than it would be to just render it out. And I also say potentially cheapest because it does depend on what you're trying to do. And then one of the biggest problems with AI, and this is going to be true moving forward for a while, is that it really doesn't understand motion blur and consistency between plates. If you think about, if you have to get a full 360, or the other way to do it in driving is you shoot 9 angles, so front, right, etc., and up. Doing that in AI and making consistent is almost impossible. The best way we're probably going to be able to do it is when you can really do 360. You can kind of do it in VO3, but not really. Or by doing video to video. So potentially with our plates, if you already have a library of stuff or driving plates, if you take those, feed it in, and say, okay, now make this 1940s, and maybe it can keep that consistency. If a red car drives through the front camera and then that same red car goes to the right side camera, eventually, and probably sooner than later, it can do that. But otherwise, it's really it doesn't. And then the motion blur, if it's just generating on its own, it has no idea. And it's the faster you go, the worse it gets. That's true for Unreal as well, by the way. I'm going to sort of skip through Unreal. Yeah, we'll just skip through Unreal and we'll skip through video. So we're sort of a hybrid approach. So it's kind of the best of both worlds for a lot of things. But this is the other thing that also is tricky with AI as well, that photorealism versus physical reality. So with virtual production, you actually don't want a lot of the lens effects that make CG look real, which is kind of counterintuitive. But it's basically a window to the world. So the world doesn't have noise. It doesn't have aberration. It doesn't have lens distortion. It doesn't have bloom, lens flares, that sort of thing. And so the CG renders, actually, you don't want those things either. Or you can add them, but you need to be very subtle about it. And the most obvious example is if you have a lens blur. If you have a lens blur that's baked into the plate and you're moving the camera on set and it's sort of just baked into the wall, it just doesn't make sense. And so AI, one of the things that makes it look photoreal is it does naturally just sort of put those things in because that's what it's been trained on. But it's hard to tell it to get rid of some of that stuff. I know I'm running out of time here. Sorry, guys. The only thing is motion blur is very important. It's also one of the main reasons I chose Octane in the first place, is that the motion blur is really, really good. And that takes real compute power to calculate. It's basically, I have a long thing here. We're not going to like read it. But it's basically like, subsampling, hundreds of times inside of one frame to see like what would the first part of this frame look like, what would the last part of this frame look like, and it's doing a lot of calculations in between. And so that's not a real-time process. I'm going to skip through this. I've got 3 minutes. All right, cool. Doing great here. So basically, what does it do well? It does. You can tell I have ADHD, right? What it does well, and so ID iteration, short form, of course, stylized, rapid iteration, and deepfakes, of course. What does it do poorly? This is the more important thing. So long duration, high resolution, realism motion, precise control. Legal is also another big problem, and production geared fidelity. And then, of course, like what is the most important things in virtual production? It's all those same things. So the legal part is a big part in my world. A lot of people think that we do AI, and so then it's a problem with the studio. And I'm like, no, we don't use Gen AI in our pipelines. So I'm going to skip through. Let's see. Yeah, do that. I think I put this in there twice. Sora 2, that was a great fail. This was the best looking result I found. I think this was using Moon Valley. And the first frame looks really great. So this is taking one of our plates, putting it in AI, and then say, make the next 6 seconds. So the first frame is our frame, and then the first few frames looks great, and then cars just disappear. Motion blur becomes like a blob, and you're not going to be able to see it from on here anyway. I do want to be cautious of the time, and so I think I will sort of wind down. I think I don't have the actual quote, but I saw something from Jacob Collier the other day that was like, obviously I listened to a lot of things about AI, but he had one of this great. Does anyone know, who knows Jacob Collier, the musician? Okay, great. I've worked with him many times. He's really one of the special people in this world. But he had a really great comment on AI, and it was just a question someone asked him, and he said AI is really great about doing what's the most predictable thing. So, okay, this is okay, do this. It's really great at going, okay, what's the most predictable thing? This is going to be my answer for that. And he said the thing that makes humans unique is the unpredictability. And so he was sort of charging whoever was asking him, like, so I would just charge you to be unpredictable, because that's the thing that makes humans unique, and that's the thing that makes art unique. So even if you're using AI, be unpredictable in the way you use AI. And I remember when I heard that, I was just like, I've heard so many people talk about AI, but like, what a beautiful way to say it, and I just wanted to share that here too. So I will shut up now because my time I think is up. But if I guess we don't have time for questions either, probably. So I'll hand it over to you, and you can.
You know what? Let's have a couple of quick questions, very quickly. One over there.
Do you use some external asset libraries?
Yeah, so we use Kitbash a lot because their licensing is black and white. You can use it for whatever you want, and so Kitbash is great for that. We have created some of our own assets when necessary, when we couldn't find something, but the short answer is yes. The trees, it's a good question. We do have my co-founder. We have made some of our own procedurally generated trees, but I would imagine it's probably a mix of a bunch of things. I'm sure we do use trees as well. You want to pitch something?
I've actually modeled the trees.
What's that?
I'm from Polygonic, and
Oh,
we've
yes,
created
yes.
Botanic, and
Yes,
I've noticed that those are our trees.
Oh,
So
well, there you go.
it's like a silly question.
So, Mike, so do you know Mike Hodgetts?
Huh?
Do you know Mike Hodgetts? Because he has talked with you guys, Polygonic.
And who?
My co-founder, Mike Hodgetts.
I don't know. Like, we have a lot of people who answer to a lot of questions.
Yeah. So with
Probably, yeah.
Polygonic, it's another great example. So we do use Polygonic, and probably not just for trees, but other things as well. And again, it's one of the main reasons is the license is straightforward. It's black and white. It's not like the Unreal Marketplace is very gray area. So, but yeah, Mike Hodgetts would be the guy to talk with, like what assets we're using, and would love to talk with you afterwards too.
Ooh, I've got a
Yeah.
question right here.
Chuck.
Was this image to video or video to video? And did you try to do video to video
This
to
was
modify
image to
the look?
video. Yeah, I think the best result is going to be video to video eventually. But this was image to video, and this is partially because I got into a pissing match with somebody at Moon Valley, and I told him you couldn't do motion blur correctly, and I was correct. But this was image to video in Moon Valley, and that's what that was.
Video to video would be the way to go.
Video to video
You
would
might
be the way
able
to go
get
for
some,
sure.
motion
For sure.
blur and then
Yeah.
the paths.
Yeah.
And the very last question right here.
Are you limited to modern times, or can you do any period in history using this?
We can do any period. We have done a few like period things. One of the challenges with period in general is just that, and we've sort of come across this a few times, is especially when you're doing period, people are looking for something very specific. So, for instance, we're bidding on one right now. It's 1940s Shanghai, and so we can do it, but it is a little bit more work for us. So the everything, cost goes up, time goes up, and so and we definitely can. But it's like we need to work directly with the production designer they're going to be very specific. We want these cars, we want these buildings, these flags. It has to be this street, which we're very excited about. But with period, it's like it really depends on the production.
So if you're provided with reference art?
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Alex.
Amazing. Alex Pearce, everybody.